is World News Tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us on this Sunday. I'm Lindsay Davis. We begin with breaking news. Multiple people were injured after a small plane crashed in a parking lot in southern Pennsylvania, just east of Harrisburg. 5 people were on board that single-engine plane. Emergency crews rushing to the scene of the fiery crash near a retirement village. The crash apparently caused several cars to burst into flames. Authorities say the plane may have skidded about 100 feet after it first hit the ground. The FAA is planning to investigate, and the new details coming in tonight. ABC's Ike Ejiochi leads us off.
Tonight, a devastating crash in Pennsylvania. The fiery wreckage right near a retirement village in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. A private plane plunging into this parking lot just steps from homes. Cars set ablaze.
Units responding to the airport crash.
The smoke seen for miles. Authorities say 5 people were on board the Beechcraft Bonanza that crashed around 3 p.m. near the Lancaster airport. The pilot can be heard on air traffic control telling the tower that his plane has an open door and he needs to go back to the airport.
Lancaster Tower, Bonanza 347 Mike has an open door. We need to return for a landing.
Seconds later, the control is heard telling the pilots to pull up.
Pull up.
Today's crash just weeks after 7 people were killed when a medvac jet crashed into a Philadelphia neighborhood just minutes after takeoff. Lindsay, the FAA says 5 people were on board that plane, and local authorities are reporting several injuries on the ground. And the NTSB, they're monitoring the situation. Lindsay?
Terrifying images there, Ike. Thank you. Now to those rare wildfires in New York's Long Island near some of the most affluent neighborhoods in the country. The governor has declared a state of emergency. Plumes of smoke visible for miles, gusty winds down trees, and abnormally dry conditions are fueling those flames. 4 wildfires have already scorched more than 600 acres and damaged 2 commercial buildings. ABC's Morgan Norwood is on the scene tonight.
Tonight, a state of emergency in New York. First responders continuing to battle fast-moving wildfires in eastern Long Island.
Holy
Scorching more than 600 acres near densely populated areas in the Hamptons.
The building on the north side is starting to burn up right now.
3 of the fires now put out. Officials saying a 4th is just over 20% contained following a massive response. More than 80 fire departments and 10 EMS units deployed. Dry and breezy conditions fueling the fire's rapid spread.
There were winds 35 miles an hour and above yesterday that drove this fire. There was also a lot of downed trees in this vicinity.
My whole place!
2 commercial buildings damaged, including Mark Cirillo's gate systems business.
It looked like a tornado. It was all smoke at that point. I couldn't see the flames, and at that point the fire exploded, and the flames went up and over the building.
Officials warn the fire threat is not over.
Had this wind blown to the southwest, this fire would have ravaged through potentially Eastport, the business district. It could have been a very different fire.
Yeah, it's pretty scary.
We met resident Doug Steinberg, who says he could see the thick black smoke from his West Hampton home and that he and his family had an emergency plan.
We always keep a go bag handy. We know all the back roads out of town and all the ways that are less wooded.
It comes as the Northeast continues to see an increase in fire-related activity. According to NOAA, many states in the region, including New York, saw record numbers of monthly red flag warnings within the past year. And Lindsay, investigators here in West Hampton Beach are working to determine how and where these fires started. Lindsay, they're interviewing every 911 caller from that afternoon and poring over video footage. Lindsay?
Morgan, thank you. Next tonight, the urgent search for a college student missing in the Dominican Republic. Sudiksha Kunanki, a 20-year-old University of Pittsburgh student, vanished while on spring break. A team of international, state, and local authorities are now involved in the search. Here's ABC's Perry Russom.
Tonight, the desperate search for a college student on spring break missing in the Dominican Republic. A helicopter flying above the water of Punta Cana, searching for Sudiksha Kunanki, seen here on this missing poster. Search and rescue teams starting today before sunrise. Dive teams joining the search. Dominican officials say the 20-year-old University of Pittsburgh student was last seen on surveillance camera Thursday just before 5 in the morning. Tonight, late word from the Dominican Republic. Authorities say they now believe Kunanki may have drowned. They say they were told she was on the beach with a group. Some of them left. She stayed and went swimming with someone. Konanki is an Indian citizen living in Virginia outside Washington, D.C. The Loudoun County Sheriff's Office in Virginia says she was traveling with 5 other women, all students at Pitt, including her best friend from high school. Investigators say the women are believed to have been staying at the same hotel in Punta Cana, the Hotel Rio Republica, according to the Dominican Foreign Ministry. All 6 women were scheduled to return on Friday. The 5 friends are still in the Dominican Republic. And Lindsay, there is desperation to find this missing student. Officials in the Dominican Republic are entering the 5th day of the search. Lindsay?
All right, Perry for us. Thanks so much. Now to those deadly clashes across Syria. The death toll is now more than 1,300, and most of the victims are civilians. This is the worst outbreak of violence since Bashar al-Assad was toppled 3 months ago. And we want to warn you that some of these images may be disturbing. More now from ABC's Lama Hassan.
Concerns mounting across the world as the staggering death toll rises in Syria tonight. Syrians now burying their dead after brutal violence rips through the country, still recovering from the fall of the Assad regime. More than 1,300 people killed so far, most of them civilians. The deadliest few days since the conflict began 14 years ago. Secretary of State Marco Rubio condemning what he calls the radical Islamist terrorists, including foreign jihadis that murdered people in western Syria, adding that the interim authorities must hold those responsible accountable. The violence breaking out on Thursday after pro-Bashar al-Assad loyalists ambushed and killed 16 members of the government's security forces. The fighting then spreading with revenge killings for those deaths. With reports of mass executions and entire families killed, the images circulating online are too horrific to show. Syria's security forces are scrambling to stop the fighting from spreading, sending convoys and setting up checkpoints in the country's western coast, where the deadly clashes first erupted. And Lindsay, tonight, Syria's interim leader Ahmed al-Shara is calling for national unity and peace, vowing to bring those responsible for the violence to justice. Lindsay.
And Lama, I know you're also tracking breaking news out of Gaza. Israel says that they've stopped sending electricity to the people there. What's the explanation?
Yeah, Lindsay, you'll remember that most of Gaza hasn't had access to electricity from Israel since the beginning of the war, but it will affect the desalination plants, which provide clean drinking water and will likely have a huge impact on Gazans. And remember, this is a week after Israel blocked much needed humanitarian aid, the delivery of food, fuel and medicines during the holy month of Ramadan, all part of Israel's efforts to turn up the pressure on Hamas and force them to release the remaining hostages. Lindsay.
A dozen of those hostages still believed to be alive. Lama, thank you. Now to the trade war and President Trump threatening to impose even higher tariffs. The president dismissed concerns over his back and forth on tariffs, but critics say it's creating uncertainty for businesses and the economy. And what the president is saying tonight about a possible recession.